Hello, this is Lynn, and I'm talking today with Peter Wakefield.
Hello.
And we're doing the chart of Joanna Lumley, the very well-known actress and model and activist. Well, in these days, I don't think she's a model. Actress, star, of stage and screen.
And campaigner.
Campaigner, yeah. I'm saying activist, which is very similar. And she's born on the 1st of May 1946 in Srinagar, India at 7:30 p.m. So we're working from an ascendant of 14 degrees Scorpio. And her sun is in Taurus, conjunct her moon, right next to her moon. So we have somebody who is literally a Mayday child.
Yes.
She's she's one of the most charismatic women and beautiful, seductive, we might say, women of her generation. I put that seduction down to the Scorpio rising. She's got that sexual vibrance.
Yes, she's sensual.
But she's totally sensual. That's Taurus as well.
Yeah.
But I think the sexuality, the deep sexuality, is reined in a little here by Saturn in Cancer.
The Scorpio ascendant essentially makes Joanna a warrior.
Scorpio rising people always in this lifetime have to regenerate themselves in some way. And doubtlessly, when we regenerate, we will do it through the auspice of the outside world in some way.
Yes, it's the symbolism of the phoenix rising from the ashes again and again. So no matter how many times we may be knocked down, Scorpio says, get up again. And
this is second decanate Scorpio, which is the Pisces decanate of Scorpio. So that's lending, Scorpio is it can be quite brittle, and it's said of Scorpio rising people that it's like they're wearing armour, or they're wearing some kind of wire mesh around themselves because they like to guard and protect.
They're wired for battle.
Scorpio, Scorpio rising never knows when to stop battling. It's born thinking that life is a struggle or a battle, and sometimes it doesn't know when to stop battling. The Sun, Moon, Taurus here softens and mellows her.
Yes, it's this conjunction, Lynn, of the Sun and Moon in Taurus, as opposition, Scorpio ascendant. The Scorpio element of warrior is calmed down. She's reined in your words.
Reined in.
The warrior is calmed down by this conjunction opposition in Taurus. Taurus is very harmonious.
Taurus is it's harmonious, and it likes to radiate that kind of feel good factor to the world. Well, it doesn't have to try.
So the qualities of personality are very different for what is underneath the surface.
Yes, true. But Peter, the Scorpio rising and the Taurus makes for great intensity. Sometimes this axis of Scorpio-Taurus can be almost obsessive in the way Taurus in the way it loves. It always knows who it loves and how it loves. Very intense. And Scorpio, of course, never lets go. So we see somebody here. If we look also, she's got a T-square between Jupiter, Saturn and Mercury. And we were talking about that earlier. So what I see that as is that she's overcome inhibitions. I think she's overcome a lot of inhibitions to succeed.
Absolutely. The hinge of this T-square is Saturn in Cancer.
Mm-hmm. When you say the hinge...
Well, it's like the T-square is like...
a pivotal thing,
is like the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Saturn is the one that's balancing this
Okay.
T-square.
So it's pivotal.
Yeah. And to my mind, the person's upbringing, Joanna's upbringing, is indicative here of Cancer, Saturn in Cancer. The father, or particularly the mother's side, with it being Cancer, has had a great bearing on the character forming, character building.
Yes.
T-squares in general are the builders of character, aren't they?
T-squares nail you to the karmic mass, so they're what bring you back into incarnation. But I think the Saturn here in the 9th house, Cancer, Saturn in Cancer is about the person usually doubting or not believing they're accepted or loved. And I think here what we've got is somebody who doubts or has doubted the acceptance within her profession and the questioning of a profession, because Mars and Pluto also fall in the 9th house, Leo, here. Yeah. And this Mars and Pluto can be implosive. I mean, it's dynamic, but it's very inward. Pluto forces things down.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that conjunction of Mars and Pluto is a very powerful one.
Powerful.
Especially as both those planets are associated with the rising sign Scorpio.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, we can't do a ray analysis, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's a first-ray soul.
Will and power.
On the ray of will and power, with a second ray personality.
Well, I remember when she started off, and in those days she was a model and then a sometime actress, and then she became a very successful actress. She was always very icy. She was like your original ice maiden, and very aloof and very cool. And then she seemed to thaw. And actually, she's one of those people that, as she comes out, or maybe as you get to know her, she's extremely warm. But this is Scorpio rising.
Yeah, the personality, which is indicative of the conjunction of Sun and Moon in Taurus, is very harmonious, very calm, and she's got Venus in Gemini,
very generous,
which is second ray energy,
very generous as well.
Yeah.
And
Taurus is generous, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The generosity of the spirit flows out of her, and she's done myriad documentaries now on all kinds of subjects that she particularly likes, and she's very erudite and she's very explicit in what. I mean, that she's got Mercury in Aries, so this gives her strength and an independence, because Taurus can become very dependent on others. Yeah, and likes another to depend on, and gets very fixated about other people and the love objects and the people that it objectifies as being necessary. But the Mercury in Aries gives her the most independent thought processes ever.
Taurus gives her a love of the good life.
It does indeed. And we've got Venus in Gemini, which always brings that need to be free. So I think the Mercury Aries, the Venus Gemini, free up that otherwise fixed intensity of Scorpio Taurus.
That was fascinating, wasn't it, when she did that series on the origin of the River Nile?
Yes.
She took it right back to the source. Now that would be typical.
She did
of this Mercury in Aries she has, going back to origins and sources,
and also going it alone in a new campaign. New campaigns, Mercury in Aries. She is, and she's so.
But I mention that then because it's a spiritual aspect of her.
Yeah,
that's the adventurer.
If we look at the Mercury. The natal Mercury is sextile Uranus on the cusp of 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And this is edgy. Right?
Yes, it's very nervy, isn't it?
It's although she's not a nervy person, I don't think. I think it's edgy and it shows some strain around relationship or around the forming of bonds, perhaps. It's very edgy. There's a need to stretch the mind as well, and she does it easily.
It says the best actors and actresses are often best when they're on edge.
Yeah.
When they're tense, when they're being stretched.
But this is, I know, but when we look at Mercury, I look at Saturn in the 9th, I look at Mercury in the 5th. Mercury in the 5th, very creative. Saturn in the 9th, the profession. And this Mercury squaring Uranus, it's almost as if she has had too many choices professionally, and she's had to make a hard and fast choice at some point about what to pursue, because that Mercury and Uranus would stretch the implications of talent or idea.
That falls into what I put here with this Mercury opposing Jupiter. Urging ahead, but often contracts are too big, and the largeness of them can be a handicap.
Yes, Jupiter's retrograde, of course, in Libra. So we did look at this, didn't we, and say she could have studied law or something. But she's also, the fashion industry would be Libra as well. So Jupiter retrograde in Libra would be suggestive of somebody who is concerned with form
and a keen sense of justice.
Yes,
which she did over the Gurkhas.
She's definitely got a keen sense of justice.
Yeah.
She's an animal rights activist, which is why I like her so much. But I remember the Gurkha campaign because her father was military,
yes.
and she had a military
which
life.
Is why she came to be born in India.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But that Jupiter in Libra is also about style. It's about graphics. It's about the fashion industry.
Yeah, it is.
And we know that she's famous for the role in Ab Fab, in which she almost parodies herself. But I think that if you look, the retrograde Jupiter, which would signal something brought forward from past life, talks about people who have to be correct and present themselves and everything has to be perfect. So it has to be on absolutely pristine lines, and it talks about dressing people, designing people, costumery.
Jupiter retrograde in Libra is trimming things down.
Yeah,
it's the largesse of Jupiter when it's retrograde is trimmed down.
Yeah. It condenses that which otherwise would be magnified. So it's the fine detail of dressing, the fine detail of law, the fine detail of the things in life which
it's quite
to be nailed.
Libra is quite
chic.
Oh
God, yes. This is why we've got the fashion industry, and of course it could suggest theatricals as well, because it's a representational sign.
She comes across as quite fashionable and chic.
She's totally the icon of how to be, and the older woman's icon, and she's ageless.
You can imagine her getting involved in etiquette.
She's totally ageless in that because she carries something called pure, which in the Jungian sense is the male in a very female essence. So it's the embodiment of everything that is in a mental, emotional way, very yang in a female essence.
Which concurs with this.
And it makes women kind of ageless. So they're beautiful at any age, and because it's an inner thing, it's an inner essence, and she has that.
I think the term is heterozoic. It brings together feminine and masculine elements.
Well, this is shown by the Sun and Moon conjunction, isn't it?
I think Catherine Hepburn had something similar.
Because the Sun is absolutely with the Moon here. This shows something to do with the parents as well. It shows the coming together of yin and yang in the way that Peter's explained it but it's also the closeness of mother and father often. Yeah. The closeness of the mother and father. But it's squaring that Pluto Mars conjunction in Leo. So something to do in fixed signs. So something to do with that closeness of yin and yang or mother father has at some point caused this very this dynamic of I'm going forward or finding the profession in which I will succeed most dramatically, no pun intended, because Pluto, of course, is the ruler of Scorpio on the ascendant.
And again, coming back to the conjunction of Mars and Pluto then, with Scorpio ascendant. In Leo is in the midheaven. Her profession, her notoriety, her reputation is Leo, showmanship, on the stage, before the camera.
Yeah.
And she's energised because of these planets in Leo.
Yes. But she does it very naturally.
She does.
She's a natural representative of whatever it is she champions. So there's nothing kind of false about her.
No.
It's often said that simplicity is the hardest thing, but when she's doing these reality things, it's simplicity itself, because she's got that natural grace and spontaneous rapport.
She's got the flamboyance as well, hasn't she?
I don't think she is flamboyant. I think she's very understated.
Don't you think?
Yes. I think this is why she's glamorously subtle. She's got subtle glamour, and I think she's understated. And that's why she's so successful and why she ages so well.
Maybe it's just her character in Ab Fab.
Oh, God, yes. It will be a character. Yes, it is. Because in everything else, no, she isn't flamboyant.
Yeah.
But Venus in Gemini gives her that spontaneity.
It's very strong, that Venus in Gemini.
And it gives her conflict. It's conflicted. It's always conflicted, particularly in a woman's chart.
But it's
the desire for two people, two men, two places.
When she's being interviewed, you see the smoothness and the
very
harmony.
urbane. Very urbane.
Yeah.
Quintessentially English, really. British. But with the overlaid warmth, because often the British are cold. And I remember, as I say, Joanna Lumley in her early days came over as quite cold, but then that's obviously the model training. And as she grows into her own, the warmth pours forth and she's more natural.
Yeah.
And that when she's natural, that warmth of Taurus comes through.
Absolutely.
But she's very urbane and yeah. She's absolutely one of the best ambassadors for Britain and British women.
Taurus gives culinary.
Yeah, it does. It loves cooking. It loves eating as well.
Yeah.
And she's very lithe for Taurus.
I wonder if
she hasn't got the Taurian body shape.
No.
She's got more...
She's quite tall, isn't she?
And lean. So the body shape is probably coming from the Scorpio more.
Mercury in Aries with the sextile
Mercury
with
in
Uranus
Aries.
in Gemini.
Exactly stretched. So it's like an elongation. So yes.
More ectomorphic, yeah.
Yes.
Rather than...
Yes.
Mesomorphic.
Yes. So we hope that Joanna goes on for another 20 years.
I think she will.
Doing the things that she does. And thank you very much and join us next time for our next Celebrity Pod.
Bye.
In the meantime, if you want more information on our stuff, please visit www.perceptivity.co.uk or Peter Wakefield at LinkedIn. Thank you.